Okay, Alabama, Auburn fans, it's that time of the year, the Iron Bowl, best rivalry in college football. Other fans out there too, I know you're going to be looking to see how Alabama does, to see how this game plays out, because it always ends up crazy. So I'm going to do my weekly preview of the game, and I did a lot more research than I'm used to, mainly because I had more free time, and about the most free time I had since I had the opportunity to preview the Alabama versus USC game. But I'm going to start off getting into some of these statistics and also some of the injury reports of the things that are going on with the teams this week. And I'll probably do a little bit more preview-ish things as the week progresses, and I'll probably do my prediction video on Friday. So let's get into it. I'm going to start out with Auburn and Alabama stats, and I'm going to move into the individual things for the teams. Starting out with these defenses. So if you've been watching Alabama and Auburn this year, you know that the key and the strengths of these teams have been their defenses. They've both been playing great, specifically on the defensive front, on the defensive line with their front sevens. They've been playing great. Uh, and they deserve the accolades and the attention that they have been given as you watch these teams dominate the line of scrimmage, as you watch them uh, really assert themselves. And the stats back it up. Auburn has the number 18 total defense in the nation right now. And Alabama, of course, has the number 2 total defense in the nation right behind Michigan in terms of yards and, what's given up total. So Auburn number 18, Alabama number 2. Auburn has the number 54 passing yards allowed defense. So I guess their pass defense number 54, giving up only 216.8 yards per game. And number 54 sounds bad, and it's not the greatest. I'll explain that a little bit, but they're also better than that number suggests. Alabama's passing defense is number 13 in the nation, passing yards allowed, only giving up 183.7 yards per game. And that same caveat I gave to Auburn, I'm also going to give to Alabama, and I'll explain right now, actually. So when you're considering passing yards per game and pass defense in general, people hear, oh, you gave up that many yards. Man, y'all must have played horrible defense. It's like, that is one explanation. But there's also another explanation. You got a lot of factors that go into the game, like how much did the opposing team throw the ball? Was your defense playing undisciplined play at times? Were they attacking your weakest corner? All those things come into play, but also you have to look at this stat here. The passing yards per attempt and the passing yards per completion, which is very important. Both of these teams, Alabama and Auburn, are giving up about 10, almost 11 yards per completion. So that's like a first down per every time that the opposing team has completed a ball. So I'm trying to make it a little bit easier for you to understand. Whenever someone, on average, when someone completes a ball against Alabama or Auburn, they are completing a pass for a first down. And so you say, ooh, that's really bad. Why are they giving up like a first down per pass, per completion? That sounds bad until you look at how many passing yards they're giving up per attempt, which is only for Auburn 5.98, and for Alabama, no, it's 5.95, and for Alabama it's 5.71. And so that average basically says we're going to calculate how many passing yards all the opposing teams have against Alabama and Auburn, and we're going to calculate that based on the amount of attempts of passes that they've had. And what this basically saying is that teams have to throw the ball so much on Alabama that it takes at least double the amount of attempts to equal up to a first down passing against these teams. Does that make sense to you? I'll try to explain and make it simple. If not, go into the comment section, let me know, and I'll try to explain it a little bit better. So these teams have to throw the ball a whole bunch to get these big completions. So, for example, I'll put it like this. Let's say the stat line is the quarterback threw 31 passes for, let's say, 200 yards. It's not that he had a perfect or efficient game against Alabama and Auburn. 31 passes, you would expect the quarterback to be efficient, have a good game, complete about 25 of those passes, 24 of those passes, something like that. No more than 10 incompletions. What's happening against Alabama and Auburn defense is that teams are competing like 10, 12, 13 passes out of 31. Very inefficient. And when they do hit a pass, they might hit a deep ball or they might hit a pass that goes for a little bit more yards because they're taking more risk at that point to catch up and get the ball down the field and score a touchdown. So when they complete a pass, it'll probably be the big one, which is why the average completion rate is 10 yards per completion, but they have to throw so many passes to get there. That's the issue. And so these passing defenses, because of the front seven's effect on the quarterback, they are much better than their stats alone suggest. And you have to look at that when you're looking at these passing defenses. And I bring it up also just to kind of debunk this idea that you can just look at stats and see everything as so plain and like black and white, but there's a lot more into it than you think there is. Also, Auburn has the number 18 rushing defense. Alabama has the number 1 ranked rushing defense, giving up a little bit less than 70 yards per game rushing. Auburn giving up about 117. Both of these front sevens are putting in work. From the stats alone, you can say Alabama is statistically better than Auburn. You got to look into it a little bit more to say why they're better, but I think also overall beyond the stats, Alabama's front seven is a little bit better. Both of these teams don't have like a ton of depth. Alabama has slightly more, which I think gives them the advantage, and also we have a few. They got linebackers are better, but let's continue to get into some more of these statistics. Funny thing is that in pass protection, the amount of sacks given up is very similar. 18 sacks given up by Auburn, 19 sacks given up by Alabama. And I'm not going to get into too much of that because there'd be a lot to explain as well. But that basically shows that they're protecting their quarterbacks pretty well. Alabama also has the number 12 rushing offense with almost 500 attempts rushing, and Auburn has the number 4 rushing offense with almost 600, 500 and something rushing attempts. They're running the ball extremely well. That's their calling card. It's been their calling card under Gus Malzahn. And Alabama, of course, loves to run the ball, but they're passing it a lot more with the Lane Kiffin offense and Jalen Hurts running the RPOs and whatnot. So, that being said, the matchup is this number 1 ranked rushing defense of Alabama versus this number 4 ranked rushing offense of Auburn. And the matchup is going to play out in a lot of ways. Auburn will run the ball repeatedly against Alabama's front seven. They're going to try to do some misdirection. They're going to try to get some passes as well. But they're going to try to establish the line of scrimmage. And whoever dominates in the trenches will ultimately be what this game comes down to. But right now I'm just talking about the matchups themselves. So I'm going to get into some of the individual players and some of the injury reports and some of the things about both of these teams that will be important to notice. So if you haven't noticed, Sean White is hurt. He is hurt. His shoulder is injured. He hadn't taken a rep in practice, like a repetition. He hadn't taken reps in practice with the first team in 3 weeks. Hasn't been throwing the ball at all. And he's Auburn's best quarterback. He gives them the best chance to move the ball passing. And without him, they are hurting, as it showed in the Vanderbilt game and it showed in the Georgia game, which they lost. Sean White was hurt, more than likely they would have. If Sean White was healthy, they more than likely would have won that game. But today, it has been reported that Sean White was doing some light throwing. He threw some today. Auburn hasn't committed to naming a starter at the quarterback for this week, so I think they're trying to hold off to see how healthy can Sean White be because they know he gives them the best chance. Gus and Rhett both say that he gives them the best chance to play well in Alabama. Also, Auburn has their best running back, Cameron Petway. He's still not 100%, although he has been declared to be playing this week against Alabama. He will play, but his left leg injury from almost a month ago was still not 100%. So they don't know what they're going to get out of him, but they're expecting him to be healthy and ready to go. Also, the Auburn receiver groups, they're young. This is a young group of receivers. They haven't been the most productive this year because their offense is not based around passing the ball, but they are better than last year's team, which dropped a lot of passes. Honestly, the receivers last year dropped passes left and right. This year, this young, talented group of receivers with Tony Stevens, Kyle Davis, who's a true freshman, and Marcus Davis, who's a redshirt freshman, they've been playing really, I guess, much better. They haven't been world beaters, as I said, uh, but you can see that they have potential and they'll be better. They'll just get better with time. They haven't been that explosive or they haven't been as productive this year, and so we're gonna see how they factor into the game plan against Alabama. Auburn's defensive line is probably the best part of that team, or one of the best parts. I'll get to probably the arguably someone who could be argued to be even more important to Auburn. But the defensive line is amazing right now. Defensive tackle Montravius Adams, defensive tackle Derek Brown, who's a true freshman who has been playing defensive end since Byron Cowart, their five-star defensive end, is hurt. Well, he's not hurt. He has surgery for appendectomy. He may be out for the season. They're not sure. Gus is non-committal about it, but more than likely he will not be playing against Alabama. So they're down a defensive end. But they do have Carl Lawson, who is a force, and they have Marlon Davidson, the other true freshman who has been playing lights out and who honestly has supplanted Cowart already. So this Auburn defensive line is really, 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 really good. Nick Saban has said that they're probably the best front that we played this year, and I absolutely agree based on what I've seen so far, how they handled Arkansas, how they've handled a few other teams. Their linebackers are better than last year and over the previous years. I believe Ben Davis, number 57. I've watched him. Great command of the defense. He gets in there, make tackles, and gets them set up the right way. Trey Williams also is a talented guy. He's dealing with a little bit of an injury too, but they're expecting him to play. Also, Josh Hosey, their best cornerback, is injured. He is dealing with a right ankle injury that he suffered against A&M last week. He had to leave the game, and he was walking in a boot not too long after. He's their biggest playmaker with 3 interceptions, had some big interceptions to seal some of their games this season, and he has 10 pass breakups. He will play. It has been said that he will play. We don't know how effective he will be. Now, the guy who I said is arguably Auburn's best player, who is very important to them, one of their MVPs, Daniel Carson, is most likely the best kicker in the nation. He should win the Luke Rosa place kicking award. He's been magnificent. Beyond deep, he is the best kicker in the history of Auburn in terms of number of field goals made, percentage-wise, and everything. Very good leg. Always hitting the ball in the back of the end zone at 82% or something like that. And has been 8 of 11 on 50-yard field goals in his career. Great guy. Also, Rudy Ford, Auburn's nickelback. He has led Auburn in tackles for the last 2 years. He's been given an invitation to the Senior Bowl that he accepted. So he has been an integral part of that defense. Look out for him in this game. Now, moving on to some quick things about Alabama. Cam Robinson and Corin Curvin, they both were injured against Chattanooga on Saturday. They both injured shoulder injuries. I remember the plays. But they both practiced today. And Nick Saban said that it looks better than what they thought it was going to be. So both of them practiced today, and they should be ready to go for the game against Auburn. So look out for Alabama injury on the offensive line against the Auburn defensive line. Who's going to play right guard? That's a very important question for Alabama. Corin Curvin started this week. Lester Cotton had been starting for the previous 3 weeks, so they kind of have a little shuffle there. They're going to try to get that settled before this game because this Auburn defensive front is good. Bo Scarborough, who hadn't been playing the last 3 weeks since the game against LSU, where he tweaked his knee. A lot of you didn't know that, but he hurt his knee in that game. That's why you didn't see him after he had a whole bunch of success against LSU. They put him in, and he was doing those inside power running, and that allowed us to move the ball on LSU and get our offense going, and that's why we were able to get a field goal and score a touchdown. He tweaked his knee in that game, and that Alabama wanted to be safe with him because he has a history of injuries, and so they let him rest these past few weeks, but he is good to go this week against Auburn, so expect to see a little bit more power running, or hopefully more power running from Scarborough when they put him in the game. Also, he just could be vital to this game because Auburn with the defensive front, like the LSU defensive front, is physical and tough, and so you'll need your running back to maybe bang into him like Scarborough did against LSU, as opposed to the shiftiness of Harris or Jacobs. Ardarius Stewart has a discipline issue. He did not play in the UTC game, the Chattanooga game this past week, because he did something wrong, and Saban didn't let him play. He said that he's been practicing this week, but Saban said that he'll play against Auburn if he does what he needs to correct his behavior or whatever happened, whatever he needs to fix. He needs to do that. So be on the lookout for that. That can be very important with this game coming up. Also, a small thing, Reuben Foster is wearing the cast on his hands right now. He has an injured pinky or finger, one of them on his left hand. And I don't know much about the right hand. I think he just has that wrapped up as he usually does. But he kind of tweaked it a little bit in the game against Chattanooga and then brought him out for a play. But he came back in. So be on the lookout to see his pain tolerance and see how that affects how he attacks this Auburn offense on Saturday. So that's going to be very, very, very important to see how these Alabama injuries kind of shape up as the week goes along. Auburn as well. Both teams are basically injured at this point in the season. Most teams have a lot of injuries at this point in the season, so you're kind of seeing them pile up. Also, Jonathan Allen kind of hurt his leg a little bit in the game. Didn't make much about it because I saw him in a little bit after, but just to see maybe a soreness or maybe just kind of fell on it wrong. So that is kind of what we're looking for with this team this week, trying to see Alabama get healthy and trying to see Auburn see how much healthy can they be and how will that impact these matchups. Like Alabama's second in the nation in sacks, second total defense. So Alabama's defense versus this Auburn rushing attack. How much will Auburn's passing attack will be able to influence Alabama when? So the issue is Auburn already has the number 108 passing offense in the nation to begin with, so their passing offense is not great. Even with the young, talented receivers, they were not great. But adding the fact that Sean White is hurt, that makes it even worse for Auburn. And so the matchup is, will Auburn's pass offense be able to do enough to open up the game or to take pressure off of their running offense, which has to go against the best rushing defense in the nation. Thank you for listening. I got to cut this video a little short, although this was technically the end. But this is the first preview of this Alabama-Auburn game. A lot of things to look out for. A lot of things to watch as the week develops and progresses. Let me know what you think. Like I said before, if you have questions about any of the things I was talking about, explaining earlier, you can ask them in the comment section. I would love to get back to you. Be on the lookout for more videos. Thank you.